Hello everyone, and welcome to my last video of the year. Today I'm going to be doing a look back, a retrospective, if you will. I'm going to be going over my favorite and least favorite movies of the year. Now here's the thing, I'm not talking explicitly about movies that came out this year. I am talking about every movie I've seen this year. So if I saw a movie from 1933 that I loved, I'm gonna put it on this list because I saw it in 2018. Of course, there will be a lot of movies that are from 2018, but it's not limited to those. Also, I'm doing that because there are movies that came out this year that I still want to see. So if I get the chance to see them next year, I can just include them in that list instead. So it all works out. Also, I'm not going to talk about movies I already did reviews on, so no Slender Man, no Venom, and no ABCs of Death, because I technically saw that this year, so that would count, but not any of those. Okay, I'm going to try and go in order of when I saw these movies. Not release date, when I saw the movies. So let's go. So I was planning to do a video like this last year, so a lot of the first movies I saw this year were actually me trying to catch up with 2017, so we're going to start off with a couple movies from 2017. Starting with, the first movie I ever watched in 2018 was The Disaster Artist. It was okay. I think it was hindered from liking this movie more because I love Ed Wood so much. And that really affected what I wanted from this movie. In my opinion, this movie could have gone two ways. Stylized and heightened, like Ed Wood, or grounded and real, like American Movie. Both of those movies are good, by the way. You should watch them. But I thought this movie just sort of stayed in the middle of those two extremes. I just noticed that. But this movie sort of stayed in the middle between those two extremes, and it didn't really go... It played it safe, really. I think they should have leaned into more of one camp, but they sort of stayed in the middle, so... but the parts where they recreate the room were pretty good. Next, I saw the Justice League. Why? This was fucking dog shit. I don't want to talk about this too much because I actually plan to review this movie. Like, give it a full-on review where I go more in depth. Because it was so bad. So bad. There's like too many bad things about it to get into right now because I want to make this video shorter. It is the epitome of bland. But not even like good bland. Like you watch like Thor 2. That movie's bland as fuck. But I would rather watch that movie than this. So it's like, it's not even, it's worse than bland. I don't even know what to call that. How's that even possible? Next, I saw Black Panther. It was good. There were some parts I thought were kind of bland, but there were also some things I really loved about the movie. The whole environment of Wakanda was really interesting visually. I absolutely loved the two fight scenes that took place next to a waterfall. I absolutely loved those scenes. The villain was really interesting as well. The parts I found bland were the action sequences, mainly. It was just kind of standard Marvel fare, especially the end fight. God, I was bored at that end fight. While it was happening, I was thinking, like, sort of fantasy booking in my own head, like, I want them to do another waterfall fight, and that could be the climax of the movie. Meanwhile, two invincible gods are just jumping at each other. It was good though, and I would recommend it. Next, I saw Game Night, which was surprisingly good. I really love the premise. In fact, I actually hope someone would take this premise and actually make a more dramatic film with it. The comedy was good, but the reason I really love this movie is that it was actually visually interesting. A comedy that actually gives a shit about the visuals, sign me the fuck up. A great little touch was that they used the tilt shift effect to make everything in the frame look like toys or plastic game pieces, which really fit in the movie, and I really like that. There were a couple jokes that didn't land for me. There were some parts that were really cliche, and but overall, I would say it was pretty good. Next, I saw Last Shift from 2013. I saw this on the same day I filmed Mischief Night, and the same day I watched ABC's of Death as well. But this movie was utter dog shit. It was actually probably worse than the ABCs of Death, because at least the ABCs of Death knew it was stupid. I hated this movie. It tried so hard to be deep and mind-bending, but it was just fucking annoying. It starts off really good. It started off really good, really slow, building the tension well, but damn, does it get stupid. Me and Christian tried recording a movie night video where we would watch it, but it was just too boring. We couldn't even make fun of it. Like, it didn't even give us the pleasure of shitting on it. Next, I saw Ready Player One. I actually didn't hate this movie as much as most other critics did. The parts I expressly disliked were the action sequences where there's like 30 million things going on in the frame at one time. Number 7 was Ready Player One. I love this fucking... My favorite part of this movie. My favorite part of this movie is when something I recognize shows up. That pretty much says it all, honestly. The actual parts that were in live action were okay, but I think that's just because they couldn't fill up the frame with shit. Next I saw A Quiet Place. I quite liked it. A lot of it didn't make sense, but I enjoyed the premise. It had some good characters, some good set pieces. You know, it was good. Nothing much else to say, really. It wasn't effective as a horror movie, would be my biggest complaint. You know, I wasn't scared at all by it. Even the jump scares, because they were kind of predictable. I think that's about it, though, and I thought it was good anyway. Next I saw Avengers Infinity War. I was shocked that this movie wasn't a clusterfuck. It was surprisingly competent. I was amazed that they managed to handle that amount of characters in a movie. I loved Thanos. I'm glad they actually made him intimidating and not just a quippy bastard like every other character is in the Marvel movies. My only problem with this movie would be the ending, because it's so obvious. It's so obviously going to get undone in the next movie. So it kind of robs any tension. It doesn't have as much tension as it should, because everyone knows that this isn't going to be permanent. But it was really good, and I would recommend watching it. Next I saw Deadpool 2. It was pretty good. Not much else to say about this except it were funny. I wish it was more visually interesting, like Game Night, and I wish Deadpool would make more subtle jokes. I do like over-the-top comedy, but I prefer subtle, dry, sarcastic humor. But I realized that would just be making the movie for me and me alone, so what can you do? Next I saw a Solo A Star Wars Story, and it was fucking garbo. I absolutely hated Rogue One, and so I also expected to hate Solo, but I actually didn't hate it as much. I would say that Solo is better than Rogue One. I think the only reason for that though is tone, because Rogue One honestly reminded me of Batman v Superman, where it just takes itself so seriously, and it's such an inherently silly world that the movie's set in that it's off-putting immediately. But this movie was more lighthearted, so yeah. So I think that's I'm more willing to overlook the flaws if the movie doesn't take itself too seriously, because you can tell they don't think of this as high art or anything, whereas with Rogue One it kind of seemed like they did. Overall, it's standard summer blockbuster fare. I would recommend it to anyone that really loves Star Wars, but all those people already saw the movie, so you know. Next I saw Wish Upon, and it was something else.
You dig a multiverse?
Next, I saw A Ghost Story. I absolutely loved this movie. I gotta move to express my excitement. At first, I thought this was gonna be a generic hipster art movie, and it is, really. But the way it deals with the passage of time and sort of moving on, it was amazing. The way it dealt with those themes. I am a little biased towards this movie because I think about that shit a lot, and that's one of my biggest worries. So this may have resonated more with me than it will other people. I'm probably going to make a full video review of this movie as well, because I loved it so much and I want to talk about it in more detail. This was probably, honestly, my favorite movie I saw this year. Even though it came out last year, this would be my favorite movie out of this list, and probably that I saw this year of all, out of all. Next, I saw Halloween. I liked it okay. I felt like most of it was kind of bland. I do have an affinity for this series in general, so I'm probably a little more forgiving of it, or to it. I really enjoyed the ending. I thought it served a nice cap to end the series off of, even though it's not going to be the end. Just like how H2O, Halloween H2O was a great cap to end the series on, and they just kept going. So when the inevitable sequel comes out, I'll probably actually I'll probably sour on this movie a little bit. Mainly because the ending is really interesting. This is going to be a little hard to explain without spoiling it. But when the inevitable sequel comes, I just know they're going to 100% either retcon it completely or not completely follow through with the ending. For one, because they already tried what they're hinting at here, and they already did retcon it and didn't follow through with it. So, but overall, it was good. I did like how they portrayed Michael Myers as just pure evil. Can't reason with him. He's not like a sympathetic villain. I like that they understood some characters are just better as mindless, evil people. Although that did kind of fall apart when he decides not to murder a baby for no reason. Why? Why would you have that? Why even put the baby there? Just have him walk around the room for a little bit. You don't even have to have the baby there. It would have saved you. Like, you wouldn't have to go out and get a baby to be in the movie. You could just... Next, I saw Searching, and I really enjoyed this movie. This movie is if Unfriended made sense. This movie is if Unfriended had good characters. This movie is if Unfriended was good. The whole movie takes place on a computer, much like Unfriended. And I actually think the thriller genre is more fitting to have a movie take place on a computer, more so than the horror genre. Because in thrillers you have a lot of new information, and there's a lot of, searching and digging through web pages and, clicking on links and stuff. That's more fitting for a thriller. Whereas in Unfriended, the ghost just erases their forward button on Gmail, and that's the scariest thing they can think of. But Searching was really good. I know I spent most of this mini review just shitting on Unfriended, but I would pretty much recommend Searching to everyone. It was really great. Finally, last movie I saw this year, or at least this little period before the end of the year, was Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. I fucking loved this movie. This is everything I want out of a superhero movie. In fact, hot take incoming, this is probably my favorite Spider-Man movie. I have to rewatch Spider-Man 2. I haven't seen it in ages, but I definitely think this movie is up there with it. My battery's low. The visuals are fucking good. At points, it doesn't even look like 3D animation. It looks like 2D because the animation is so good that it just looks like 2D animation. It's amazing. The animation alone is worth the price of admission. And this is actually great because the movie's still in theaters, so you can go and see it, and this is me telling you to go fucking see it. That was a little tangent, but it works. But the story is great too. It's not just someone saying with great power comes great responsibility. Instead, crazy idea here. The movie is about him learning with great power comes great responsibility. They show him learning it instead of just someone telling him that's what you need to learn. The action scenes were great too. It wasn't just two people mashing into each other. You know, the characters actually get hurt for one. You know, there are characters, Miles Morales in fight scenes is like just trying to run away because he's not good at fighting yet. And there's usually more than one character or more than two characters in a fight scene. It's great. Just little changes like that are so refreshing. I loved all the characters except for Peter Porker, which seemed like just cheap comic relief. It wasn't bad. I just didn't really like him. He was clearly there to appeal to the little kids. But I seriously love this movie. It's probably up there with some of my favorites of the year, honestly. So that was all the movies I saw this year, or mostly all of them. There were some I didn't mention because I didn't have much to say about them. So yeah, that was 2018, and I will see you next year.